You know what? We should make a podcast.
What's a podcast?
Well, it's got to be a lot more interesting than working on VCRs, you know? We record ourselves talking about something interesting or meaningful to life or, really push our opinions about something and, just have a chance to, be ourselves, be creative, maybe inspire some change.
That sounds really boring. Fate Point! Walking outside!
Wait. Okay, well, we're outside on the sidewalk. It's a nice day out. The birds are chirping, the cars are going by, not running over anyone. The sky is blue, except for the random floating clouds that changing colors in inhuman ways, but still nice, peaceful.
This was well paid by me. Why are you still holding a VCR? Fate Point!
Okay, so I am without a VCR. I am standing. It's kind of boring.
Fate Point! To the game shop!
Okay, can we stick with this one for a while? The tangents are kind of dizzying.
Hey Joshua, have you ever played Fate? You haven't? That's crazy. It has aspects and dice and skills, and you use it to tell a story. Did you know that?
As a matter of fact, I did.
What? Why didn't you tell me that you knew that?
Well, considering I kind of helped teach you how to play the game, I just assumed it was a given.
I don't know what you're talking about. What is Fate? I don't know what you're talking about. What is Fate? We should play that sometime.
We should. It's a role-playing game.
What's a role-playing game?
That's where you choose a role in a game, and then you play it out.
That seems kind of self-explanatory.
You would think it would be, but a lot of people just kind of confuse it with cops and robbers or party imagination games or things like that.
It was like that werewolf game that people play in hallways and then sometimes cry.
Actually, yes. Some of them can be. Although most of them, like Fate, like you said, use dice. They'll use mechanics or stuff besides vote the unpopular kid off the island in order to make things a little more fair whenever there's a conflict.
Every time I've played Fate, it's usually seemed like vote the unpopular kid off the island.
Oh, come on. You have never once been voted off the island.
I haven't, no. I'm left to the end because I'm quite lovable, I would say.
Yes. Adorable, in fact.
Yes, adorable. Yes.
But, that's one of the things I like about Fate, is that even if you're being adorable or, a bit of a nuisance or whatever you're trying to be, it can work because of all of those aspects and fate points and things like that.
Well, what are some other role-playing games like D&D and Pathfinder? What are the differences?
I suppose the biggest difference is that those games have a lot of predetermined stuff, classes and stunt abilities or things like that, equipment, very complicated rules. Fate's a lot more simplified. You have aspects that are just descriptors, like eager to please or adorable sidekick or hiding in the shadows, things like that just give you a description, and they kind of help create the character that you are in playing. And the dice rolling is also very simplified. You only have 4 dice. I think they're fate dice, or are they fudge dice now?
I think they're fate dice now. Fudge dice are different. The fudge dice are the ones that have the pluses on the opposite sides and minuses on the opposite sides, where the fate dice have a plus next to each other. Not that I've ever heard of fate. Wait, yes, I explained fate to you before. What are you talking about? Go ahead.
Right. So there's lots of little differences with the fate. I think my favorite thing about the game, though, are the fate points.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a game that has similar mechanics. I'm sure there are.
There are a lot of games that have vaguely similar, like if you've ever played Legend of the Five Rings, they have what's called void points that you can spend to add an extra dice to your rolls, or Exalted has
I have not
a
played
lot of
Exalted.
points. Well, you can spend points to, increase your numbers or increase the dice you roll. And those are about as similar as you get to fate points. But the other thing that I really love that fate points can do is just create the story. Like, say that someone annoying was following you home one day, and you decided, you know what? There's a hole right here on the sidewalk that they're going to fall in.
That wasn't very nice.
No, it's not very nice, but it's something you can do. You can spend one of your fate points to make that happen. But, if the other person doesn't like that, then they can say, no, I don't think that happens. And they spend one of their fate points, right then and there, to undo it.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a fair trade.
But since I was out of fate points, I had to fall in a hole. And that's not very nice.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, wait, aren't I the one that's supposed to be telling you about fate? Because you told me you hadn't heard about fate before. I distinctly remember that in that conversation we had 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Actually, you know what? I'm quizzing you. Yeah, I'm quizzing you. Tell me, and I'll tell you if you're right or not.
Okay.
You're good so far. You're good so far. I'd give you a fate point for being such a great exposition machine.
Well, thanks. I'd appreciate that. That would be a wonderful reward for, what's a good word, synonym for tolerating? Nope, my mind's going blank. Go ahead.
Tolerating? It's the same thing, almost, kind of.
Almost.
No, so I was trying to think. What are I know we played Dresden Files.
Well, that's based on fate.
To. Yes, and then you can use the system to play fantasy games. Because I know the Fate Core system has made it so you can, introduce magic in different ways, or elves, or whatever you want.
And they've got it just, Fate Core is a very basic system, but all you have to add is a couple of skills, or maybe a rule of stunts. You can customize it very freely and add a lot of things if you were going to run, say, a game based on Avatar: The Last Airbender. But then again, if you wanted to do something like the Rats of Nim, maybe you'd only have to add, one skill, and still you have that, complete contrast to something like Stick a Man at the Office or Dresden Files. And mechanically, it's very similar, so it's easy for people that love to play a variety of games to still feel like they're playing different games, but actually know what they're playing without having to learn it all the time.
Yes, I actually saw a good mod for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that was very nice. I didn't get to play it, but I saw it. With the Fate Core system, one thing I thought I didn't like at first was the exclusion of the social track. And people that, if there were, people that didn't know about it before, I guess they wouldn't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I played Dresden Files, it was a social track, which I really liked. Fate Core came out, it took it out, but I've made a game where I put it back in, and it's completely fine with it. I know some people didn't like it, though.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of debate on that. Basically, a lot of people play the mental track as a social track, because the mental is hardly ever used except for spellcasters and psychic demons and stuff. I think, they wanted to simplify it, and that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it made sense to me,
too. All the games that, I've played that are social heavy, you just put the social track back in, and it doesn't change things a whole awful lot.
No. I have seen one where people talked about adding a resource track into the other three as well, but then they also said, at that point, you've got 3 tracks, and you have the same amount of consequences for those 4 tracks. It seems like it's spread a little thin. I know some people have come up with some interesting ways to deal with resources and gear and equipment. I know the Fate Codex is putting out a couple things that are nice. They actually have one put out recently. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But anyway, tangent. You're on a good topic. Keep going. I'm going to listen to the music and you.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, apparently one of my aspects would be low attention span. I don't remember what I was talking about.
Neither did I. Oh, we're talking about good things about Fate. What do you think are some things that Fate isn't good at?
Well, I think that Fate is not good at what I would call the crunchy stuff. Like, if you want to play those games that have the rich world history and stuff, Fate being relatively new and the world's so fluid, it's hard to find stuff like that. As far as I know, the richest world they have so far would be the Dresden Files world, and they've just coming out with their 3rd book, whereas something like Dungeons and Dragons have, I don't know, they've already got like 10 books on their newest edition.
Yeah, and the Paranet papers did just come out.
Came out.
Yeah, they just started advertising them. I think you can get it for like under 50 or something. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. I'm interested to see what they do with the Fate aspects. I've had some people with some groups and stuff online that have asked, how do I include magic in my Fate games? Maybe 6 or 7 people out of 10 will say, hey, use the Dresden Files. And then everybody else will say, I can't use Dresden, it's too clunky. And so I can see the argument for both, so I'm interested to see what mechanically.
Well, they've got, the toolkit that came out had a couple of different versions of what you can do. Obviously the easiest is just adding a skill, like Tian Xia did with Qi, and just having that be, your magic skill for everything. Dresden with the stunts. I don't know if clunky's the right word. Overcomplicated would be more what I would say. I mean, you can't do anything with magic with Dresden, and it feels like you are putting a spell together when you do it. But I guess that's another thing that Fate doesn't do quite so well is set up limitations, which honestly I love a lot of times. But if you have someone that is a min-maxer or a munchkin or whatever the correct term is for it, that's going to just find ways to break the system and mess with everybody, it's very easy for them to do that. Yeah,
I think that's one of my, I wouldn't even say gripes. Just one thing that I would say is that it's not really against Fate. It's, I don't know what to say exactly. It just can be too open, and I think Fate is really good for people that are good storytellers, who enjoy, if they focus more on the story than themselves, I think Fate is great for those kind of people.
I definitely agree. Any perceived shortcomings that Fate would have, it is pretty much geared towards the individual. There's not stuff that you can spend hours at a time doing to stat out your character or stuff. It's a very social, very level playing field, particularly for new players. A lot of versions of Fate are really open and just really encourage that cooperative style gameplay, which is one of the reasons I love playing it with storytellers and people that love getting into character and worry more about what would my character do, how would my character react, as opposed to, okay, what skill is going to get me the highest number.
Yes, I do like, there was another game I've played, Pendragon. I usually don't like a D100 or a D20 game anymore, but it was basically a D100 game, King Arthur's Court kind of thing. But it had these personality traits where, the knights had, I can't remember, I wish I had a piece of paper in front of me now, but it had certain personality traits that you would have, and you could get certain bonuses, whatever. But whenever I'm playing and I had no idea what my character would do, I would just look at my personality traits and be like, oh, he's not a deceiver, so he would do this instead. I think that's a good, maybe intro, if people are wondering, Like, if there were people, there's no one else here in the store with us. That's weird. There's no one here. Do you think people listen to us from the walls? Like, sometimes I think there's, like, a guy in the ceiling listening. Anyway, if people are wanting to get from D&D to Fate, maybe that's a good jumping point, because you can see, you work in personalities a little bit, and then you can go into more of a storyteller mode instead of a hack and slash. That's my tangent.
Cool, sorry. I was just looking to see if they had any of the games you were talking about on the shelves.
Yes, the shelves.
I don't know why you're worried about the walls listening to us. The lady behind the counter isn't even paying attention.
There's a lady here?
You really need to get out more.
So, Joshua, do you want to play some Fate?
Sure. That sounds good. Taylor, do you want to play some Fate?
Yes, I would love to play Fate. Let's go play Fate. A game of... Yeah, let's play Fate.
Shut up and sit down.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to check out other episodes or other random things we do, check us out over at burneverythinggaming.podbean.com. If you'd like to sit in the walls and listen to us talk about something in particular, email us at burneverythinggaming@gmail.com, or the Facebooks or other things to talk at people. That would be great. You're awesome, I think. Anyway, hope you enjoy.